Don't you owe the public an explanation?
Dodging our questions, but not for long, the city manager of Clewiston, accused of pretending to be a police officer, even threatening to make arrests with absolutely no authority to do so, but no charges were ever filed. In this special report, 4 in Your Corner investigator Matt Cran tracking down and confronting the man who's at the center of this storm. Matt?
Well, Patrick, in an extensive FDLE report, the city manager was accused of going on a power trip using a city-issued badge just like this one to identify himself not as a city manager, but as a cop. Home to U.S. Sugar, Clewiston is known as America's sweetest town, but a top official is accused of souring that reputation. According to this report released by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement last June, City Manager Steve McCown was accused of impersonating a police officer. So you're 100% sure he said he was a police officer?
101% sure.
Earl Lancaster works security at the Tiki Bar in Clewiston. He remembers breaking up a fight around midnight on May 1st, 2011, when McCown told him to stop.
He just let me know he was a police officer and that to let his buddy go.
He says McCown identified himself as a cop 4 times that night, waving around a gold medal badge just like this one.
I said, "Are you sure you're a police officer?" And he told me yes, he was.
As city manager, McCown doesn't have authority to make an arrest, but Lancaster says that's exactly what he threatened to do to the guy who scuffled with his friend. According to the FDLE findings, McCown instructed Lancaster to detain the man, saying, "Tonight's your lucky night. I'm not taking you to jail." The implication was that he had the power to make an arrest?
Yeah. He was making that clear to everybody.
According to the report, that same night, McCown also approached a father and son arguing in the parking lot, telling them, "I suggest you settle down. Do you know who I am?" And then, according to FDLE, told one of the men if he didn't settle down, he was going to arrest him. The owner of the Tiki Bar, Mary Ann Martin, was pouring drinks that night and immediately recognized McCown.
He kept flashing a badge, saying he was a police officer.
You're sure you heard him say police officer?
Not once, but several times. I thought to myself, I didn't know that you got to be a police officer when you're a city manager.
Despite the FDLE report and witness testimony, Mayor Richard Miller doesn't believe the accusations.
Is it appropriate for the city manager to go around showing off a badge and saying, "I'm a police officer and you're lucky I don't take you to jail"? Is that appropriate?
No, that's not appropriate, but I don't see any evidence of that occurring.
According to FDLE's findings, McCown asked the police chief for a badge and a police radio when he was first hired in 2009. He was denied the radio, and the chief told him the badge would, quote, only get himself into trouble.
I asked the chief, is there anything illegal about him having a badge? And he said no. It was just the chief's preference that he didn't.
But the city's director of building, planning, and zoning eventually ordered McCown a badge just like this online for $55. According to the report, the badge was only meant to be used during emergency situations, such as natural disasters.
Would you consider these fights at the Tiki Bar to be emergency situations?
I wasn't there. I don't know how escalated this situation was. He's not using that to rape or steal or pillage. He's using that to break up a fight.
We checked and found no other city manager in all of Southwest Florida carries a badge like this.
He doesn't necessarily need a badge. No, he needs means of identification.
Identification McCown already has in the form of this city-issued ID. The mayor says the only thing McCown did wrong was take his city vehicle to the bar. But FDLE disagreed, recommending the state attorney file felony charges against McCown for impersonating a police officer. That request was denied because the state attorney felt there wasn't enough evidence to prove criminal intent, saying in their response, in this particular case, the act of breaking up a fight would have been lawful if done by a private citizen. Steve! So we paid him a visit. Are you going around telling people that you're a police officer?
No, sir.
You're not?
No, sir.
We-
I'm the city manager here at Clewiston.
We've talked to witnesses at the Tiki Bar who say you're identifying yourself as a police officer and saying you're going to arrest people. Is that true?
No, sir, it's not that matter. I was at the Tiki Bar one night after the Sugar Festival last year. It's already been investigated, and there's been nothing, no charges were filed.
While charges were never filed, the state attorney's office urged the city to adopt a badge policy last July. Almost a year later, that still hasn't been done, and the mayor says it's not needed.
You don't think there needs to be a policy stating how a badge can be used?
Personally, at this point, I don't.
But some think a policy is needed and question whether McCown was let off the hook because he was the city manager.
If you went around telling people you were a police officer, what do you think would happen?
I'd go to jail, I'm sure.
Okay, well, McCown is still city manager. FDLE and the Clewiston police chief declined to talk to us for this story. The state attorney's office didn't rule out examining the case again if more witnesses come forward with additional information that could prove criminal intent on McCown's part. You can read the entire FDLE report on our website at fox4now.com. Live in the studio, Matt Grant, Fox 4 in your corner.